In this video, we are going to jump back into the app and basically replace our action bars with toolbars. So the idea is that we are no longer going to display action bars by default across our entire application, and instead we are going to allow the option for an activity to have a toolbar. Now, all the code that's going to be written that'll handle replacing the action bar with the toolbar is going to be handled in our base activity. So basically, the idea is going to be all an activity has to do is include a special file or layout file that's going to include a specific toolbar into the app, and the base activity will take care of the rest. So it's going to be really straightforward to add toolbars to our activities. Now the first thing I want to do here is I want to go ahead and jump into my resource folder and my values and my styles, because I want to start off by removing the action bar entirely. That's going to be the first step, because if you recall from a couple videos ago, you can't have an action bar and replace the action bar with the toolbar at the same time. You have to tell app.compat to not create the action bar in the window decor and instead allow us to handle that in our toolbar. So to do that, I'm going to jump into our styles XML file and change our app theme's parent theme from theme app.compat light dark action bar to theme app.compat light no action bar, and that'll get rid of the action bar at the top. After I do that, I do want to go ahead and throw in a basic default here for our primary color. So I want to be able to define our primary color on a per activity basis for the different activities that might have a different app bar color, which most of them will. But I also want to default the primary color to that nice blue that I really like. So I'm going to go ahead and put in an item called color primary, and I'm going to put in that awesome blue color 219, what is it, 6F3, and that'll default the toolbar to that color. Okay. So now that I've done that, the next step is I got to go ahead and create a toolbar include file that'll be used. So I'm going to right-click layout, and I'm going to select new layout resource file. So this is going to be a toolbar that's going to be included on every activity that wants a toolbar. And I'm going to call it include_toolbar, just like I did in the last video. So in the include toolbar, I'm going to jump into the text mode here. I'm going to go ahead and bring everything down like that. I'm then going to make this a self-closing element, so it's a little cleaner. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the orientation vertical. And then I'm going to change this element from a linear layout to our android.support.v7.widget.toolbar. And again, we discussed this in an earlier video. And for the height, I'm going to say wrap content instead of match parent. And for the background, I'm going to say, oh, come on, Android background equals $color primary. And so that will bring the color primary, or sorry, ATTR color primary, which will bring the color primary attribute from our style into play here, so we can override it on a per activity basis. And then we'll go ahead and give it a theme, because I'm intending, or an app theme, I'm intending for this action bar or this toolbar to be styled on a per activity basis, and have those toolbars be generally dark all the time. So I'm going to put in style theme overlay app.compat dark action bar, so that the text inside of the toolbar is dark. And then I'll go ahead and hit Alt-Enter to bring in the proper namespace. Now, of course, you could definitely you could style this more. You could have give yourself a lot more control over the style of the toolbar by creating a custom theme that inherits from this theme that I've specified here. And then you can throw in whatever overrides you may want. Either way, I just noticed a small typo. Support is not support. So let's go ahead and fix that real fast. Okay, so that's our toolbar include. So now we can include this toolbar wherever we want a toolbar to appear. Now I'm not going to worry about having it appear inside of our login or a register or anything like that. In fact, at the moment, the only place where I want the toolbar to appear isn't going to be inside of our main activity. So let's go ahead and jump into our main activities layout, which is going to be somewhere around here. Not created yet. So let's go ahead and create our main layout real fast so we can include the toolbar and we can see it working. So I'm going to right-click Layout, select New, Layout Resource File, and I'm going to say activity_main, because that's the name of our main activity, if you recall. That's our launcher activity. It's going to be basically our inbox. And for the root element, I guess we could do linear layout, or how about relative layout for now? We're going to do relative layout for now, but pretty soon here we're going to be replacing that with the drawer layout. So I'll hit OK. I'll jump into text mode here, and the only child of this relative layout is going to be an include of layout equals toolbar, include toolbar. So include that in, and again, this is temporary. We will fix this. I just want to do this for testing purposes. We'll fix this up here soon. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our namespace, open up our activities namespace, and before we forget, because we just created this layout file, before we forget, I want to jump into the main activity class and set the content view. So let's jump into main activity.java, and then on the URCreate method, I'm going to say set content view to r.layout.activity_main. Now, because we created this class ourselves and didn't use the template, the import for the R class has not been added. But we can really easily add that by hitting Alt-Enter. And as you see right here, up here, the import for com buzz ura r appears. Actually, I misspoke. The reason why we normally don't have to import R is because when we have our activities in the same package, the same namespace, as the R class, we don't need to include that import. But since we're in a sub-package, activities, we do need to have that import. It's just how Java deals with imports and namespaces. Either way, that'll include our toolbar. So we can go ahead and hit run just to make sure that everything works without throwing an error. I always like to do a little run every now and then to make sure I didn't do anything dumb. And I'm going to hit your login, I'm going to hit login, and check that out. We now have our toolbar at the top. Now, there's no text in there. There's no text in there because we haven't set it as our action bar yet. And otherwise, we haven't either A, set the title manually, or B, set it as our action bar. So I guess the next big step is to actually come in here and add the code in our base activity. And the code for our toolbar is going to be pretty straightforward. All it's really going to do is it's going to detect the existence of this toolbar, and if it finds it, it's going to use it as the action bar. Now, of course, you guys should be able to see a problem with this right now, with what I'm about to do, what I just explained, what I want to do, and what we have right here in front of us. The issue is that I didn't put an ID. So, this toolbar is something I want to reference by ID in our base activity. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give it an ID so I can reference it in Java code. And I'm going to call it include_toolbar. And so I'm not prefixing it with any sort of activity or fragment or anything because this ID can appear anywhere. It'll be included on a per activity basis. And we're going to have code that checks to see if this exists or not and then do certain things. But now we have a big question. We have a big kind of problem here, or well, not big, but we have a bit of an issue. We have a bit of a chicken and egg issue. We want our toolbar to be established in our base activity.java file, right? So we want to be able to reference our toolbar inside of our subclasses, our main activity, our friends activity, our message activity, whatever. But we don't have to write the repetitive code of finding this toolbar by ID. So we want to do all that in the base activity. How do we do this? What callback do you think we should use to put in the code to find the toolbar by ID? This is another thing about Android and activities you have to spend some time thinking about. Where should that code go, and what part of the life cycle of that activity should it go? Well, it can't go here. It can't go in onCreate. Why can't it go in onCreate? Well, it can't go in onCreate because the setContentView method has not been called yet. Remember, the setContentView is going to be called by the descendant classes, which will typically invoke the parent onCreate before it invokes setContentView. Now remember, main activity.java inherits from base authenticated activity.java, which has its onCreate method invoking onYouraCreate conditionally depending on whether or not the user is logged in. So we can't put the code that finds the toolbar here on the onCreate. You can't do it again because we haven't actually inflated the toolbar yet. We haven't set the content view. That happens here. So what about on postcreate? That seemed to work pretty well in the last video when I showed you guys how to deal with the navigation drawer. Well, the problem with that is on create, on your create, is generally, typically speaking, where you want to access your toolbar and set up your title and your app icon and your callbacks and your menus and all that fun stuff. So I really want to have a valid reference to a toolbar right here where my keyboard cursor is at. I can't do it before set content view, and I don't want to do it after the set content, or after the like on post create, for example, because on post create is invoked after all of this code gets invoked. So you really have to think about where you should insert this code. What I'm going to do is I'm basically going to kind of cheat. Well, actually, I kind of already said it. I kind of already explained exactly where I think this code should go. I want it to go after set content view, but before the next line of code. So what should I do? I'm thinking I'm going to override set content view. So this is a kind of a cool technique. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump into base activity.java, and I'm going to do a couple things. First of all, I'm going to say protected toolbar, and I'm going to make sure to select Android Support v7 widget toolbar. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm creating a protected variable, a protected field that'll be accessible in the entire class hierarchy, so I can always access the toolbar. Next up, I'm going to say override public void set content view. Now I'm going to annotate the parameter as a layout res and hit enter so I get the appropriate import at the top of the file. And I'm going to say int layout res ID. And then the first thing I'm going to do is simply say super.setContentView layout res ID. So now I can do whatever I want with what layout the child class decided to inflate. So that's really cool. It allows me to write code that'll execute after setContentView, but before the rest of the onCreate method. So let's go ahead and fill this out. It's going to be pretty straightforward. All I got to do is say toolbar equals cast to toolbar, find view by ID, RID, layout toolbar. Of course, we have to import R, so I hit Alt-Enter. And then, of course, I forgot that it's not layout toolbar, it's include toolbar, because I'm dumb. Then I'm going to say, if toolbar does not equal null, set action bar, set support action bar, because we're using the support toolbar, to toolbar. And that's it. So now, on every single activity that includes our toolbar will be set to the support action bar. So now we can jump back into main activity and we can start playing around with things. Like we can set the title if we wanted to. So jumping back into main activity, I can now say toolbar. After I do set content view, I can say toolbar.setTitleInbox. Furthermore, I could create a options menu if I wanted. But in this case, I'm not going to worry about it because I don't think my inbox is going to be having any action bar items, rather. All right, let's go ahead, words. Let's go ahead and hit play and see our action bar in action on both Android 5 and on Android 4. So if we go ahead and log in, check that out. We now have a action bar at the top, or rather a toolbar at the top of the screen. And we see that it's unfortunately not getting the appropriate title, however. So it is being set as the action bar, the support action bar, but it's not getting the proper title. And now the reason that is happening is because of a small little bit of trivia, or I guess it's not trivia if it affects the application like this, a small inconsistency in the API as far as Android is concerned. Basically, when we set a toolbar as our action bar, set title is going to have no effect, and it's going to require that instead we set the title through the support action bar. So basically, instead of that, I can say get support action bar dot set title, and I'll call this inbox. So just another one of those little idiosyncrasies that is easy to forget, as evident by my forgetting on video. You're going to have to set the title on the support action bar. So let's go ahead and test the code now and see what happens. And now we have inbox. Yeah, I'll leave that in just because hopefully it'll reinforce to you guys that you don't want to set the title on the toolbar. You want to set it on the action bar. Now, this action bar object that's returned, I want to point this out. The action bar object that is returned is different than the action bar that would be returned if we hadn't have called the set support action bar method. I want to point it out that basically what happens is when you do set support action bar, this sort of delegate object, this sort of shim object gets instantiated as the action bar, and it delegates responsibility to and from the toolbar itself. Unfortunately, it doesn't shuttle the text of the toolbar into the action bar, so you have to do that directly on the action bar shim itself. Either way, now we have a toolbar, so we can use a toolbar wherever we want simply by including the toolbar in our application. I think that just about wraps this up. In the next video, we're going to bring our horizontal main app application navigation together. So we'll see you then.